Welcome to our Shaar Hagilgulim. We're in, I think, Shaar 5. Well, whatever the case, the next Shaar. Today is Gimel, the 4th of Kislev. So, tomorrow night, our Shaar, our Monday night Shaar night.
6.
Huh?
6.
That's Shaar number 6.
Yes.
So tomorrow night is going to be the Hilulah of the Rashba. Rabbi Shmuel Eliezer Halevi, Adels. So he was, the Rashba was one of the greatest tzaddikim. We all know the famous story how David HaMelech and Shaul HaMelech came to him to mitigate their court case in Shamayim. He was a big tzaddik. He's one of the famous Mefarshim in the Gemara. One of the Acharonim. Every Gemara has it. Tomorrow night is Hilulah. Good to make a sign and light a candle. Hazecher Rabbi Shmuel Eliezer Halevi. Okay? We're in Hagdama bit. We finished talking about the Nefesh. So he gave a clear introduction. He said, well, your person's Nefesh is very hard to fix because you have to reach the Yechidah of every part of your Nefesh. So you have to reach the Yechidah of the Nefesh, Yechidah of the Ruach the Nefesh, Yechidah of the... You have to reach the Keter of every single part of your Nefesh. It's really hard to do. Alright? And he brings a reason why do you have to reach the Yechidah, because the Malchut, which represents your Nefesh Gabriel, is really close to the Klippa. And because of that, there's always a matzah, or chas v'shalom, where even if you fixed, it could still fall back down inside the hands of the Yetzer Hara. Okay? And he said, when a person reaches the Ruach, this is very important because it has to do with our Agama. When a person reaches the Ruach, you're capable of changing your Shorosh Neshama. You could do that. From Ruach and on. When you have a Nefesh, you can change it. When you're in your Nefesh, you have to pick your Nefesh up. In your Ruach, let's say you come from Malchut to the Yetzirah. Once you fixed Malchut to Yetzirah, either you could go up to the next part, or you could get a higher part of Yetzirah. Let's say the next Yetzirah, Hod the Yetzirah, or Yesod the Yetzirah. What happens to your Malchut of the Yetzirah? It stays where the Malchut is, and you gain a higher Shorosh Neshama.
What does that mean?
It means that you become a different person.
Entirely.
Yeah, because you have a much higher capabilities now. You understand? So you could change. Now, what happens to your original Ruach? It stays. No, it doesn't stay. You're the new one now. The old one that you had could come down to this earth
And there's somebody else?
and help other people. Yeah, basically, that's what we're going to learn this week. That's what tzaddikim do. So when we say that tzaddikim come in an ibur, their highest part don't come in an ibur. It's the lowest part that they leave.
So if you're not your goof and you're not your neshama, then what are you?
No, let's say you are, Malchut the Yetzirah. Right? You're the lowest part of Yetzirah. Malchut. You're Sfirat Malchut. You're Malchut the Yetzirah. You fixed it, but you worked so hard on yourself, you even reached the Yesod of Yetzirah. You are the Malchut the Yetzirah, but it's like a candle in front of the sun. The Malchut the Yetzirah pales in comparison to the Yesod of Yetzirah. So therefore, even if you have both, the Malchut doesn't even have a Shem. It doesn't even count over there. It's like mitbatel. You know what mitbatel means? It nullified. It's like it's not even there. It's like a candle in the sunlight. You understand? Who is the light of a candle if you put it in the daytime? 12 o'clock. Does it do anything to you? No, it doesn't do it. You can't even see it. That's the difference between Malchut and Yesod, the higher levels of any part of your Neshama. But what I want to tell you guys, which we're going to talk about this week, that when a tzaddik comes down to help you, he doesn't come the highest part that he got. Right? Let's say the Yesod of Yetzirah. What comes down? The Malchut, let's say. The lowest part that he left. Understand? Because the highest part that he has stays in Gan Eden. The lowest part that he fixed, he has the permission to go down and help people. Okay? Let's start Hagdama bit. Besod Kinisat HaNeran. Neran is short for Neran. Neran. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. Okay, so when I say Neran, it means Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama.
Don't run.
Huh?
Don't run.
Don't run. How does the Neran come down inside a person? Be'adam betchilat gilgulehem bepam harishona chadasha kamo sheitbaer. So this Hagdama, the beginning of this, is talking about the first time a person is born. What does he need to get his Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama? The acronym Neran. הנה בעת שנולד גוף האדם ויוצא לאוויר העולם, נכנסת בו הנפש שלו. The second a person is born, the second you're born, you already have your nefesh. The Ari explains in other places you have the klipa of your nefesh. The kedusha of your nefesh hovers upon you until you get your brit milah. So when you get your brit and when you get your name, that's when you get your actual kedusha part of you. V'im yuchsheru ma'asav, if you have the ability to make your ma'asim even greater, you went up, you leveled up. Yiskeh, you have the merit. V'ikanes bo haruach, you will level up to the level of yetzira, ruach. When? At what age? B'tashlum shnat 13, when you have 13 years old. It means you need two things to get your ruach. The first time you're in this world. Number one, you need to have good ma'asim. Mitzvot u'ma'asim tovim. And number two, you need age. Until you're 13, you're not going to get your ruach. Okay, so you need both. She'az nikra ish gamur, then you're considered a complete man, kanoda. V'im yuchsheru od ma'asav, and if your ma'asim, your deeds are even better, stronger, you become even better, bigger tzaddik, ma'az ve'elach, from then on, nichneset bo neshama b'tashlum shnat ha'esrim. You get your neshama at what age? 20 years old. That means, so we have three big times in a person's life. You have birth, 13, bar mitzvah, and 20.
First one is what?
Birth, 13, and 20. Brit milah, right? 13 and 20 years old, right? Where do we see these three times in the Torah? Well, when you're born, the Brit milah. 13, you have a bar mitzvah. What's 20? Where do we see 20 in the Torah literature?
Going to war?
Huh?
To war?
When the Jews left Egypt, me'esrim shana ve'elach, right? But a better one, this is what it really is. The Gemara Masechet Kiddushin, Daf Chavtet. Hashem waits until you're 20 years old to see if you're going to get married. That means 20 years old is the cutoff point, where in Shamayim they say you have to get married by that time. After 20, if a person is not mishtadel karaoui, Hashem says tipach atzmotav. Okay? So we see 20 years old is that point where a person has to already be completed in his neshama. That that's his first time in this world. Because 20 is the age of marriage.
Whose first time did it barely?
Of course, yeah, but there is new nitzotzot, like Rav Chaim Vital was a new nitzotz. We will learn if we have the zechut to reach to Agdama Zayin, how do you bring new nitzotzot to this world? You could. And that what we learned in Shaar Pesukim from second Beit HaMikdash and on, there is no new souls. That's only new souls from Atzilut, says the Ari in Shaar Hagilgulim. But new souls from Beriah, Yetzirah, and Asiyah can come in this world. It's possible. This is a clear Shaar Hagilgulim. Aval im lo tiken et haruach legamrei, if a person did not complete his ruach completely, lo tikanes bo neshama, his neshama will not enter him. Ve'yu bo nefesh veruach bilvad, he will only have a nefesh and a ruach. That means, even if you reach the age of 20, and you didn't complete your nefesh and your ruach, you won't get your neshama. V'chen im lo tiken et hanefesh legamrei, so too if you did not complete your nefesh completely, then you only ein borak nefesh bilvad, then you will only have your nefesh, your lowest part. V'yishaer mibli ruach u'neshama, and you will be left without a ruach and a neshama. V'yisharu, what happens to your ruach and neshama? Yishaaru ruach u'neshama ba'atar yadu al-Hakadosh Baruch Hu. There's a special place for them in Gan Eden, like a treasure chest of souls, where they stay over there, like in a waiting room, waiting for their time to come down here in this world and fulfill themselves, complete themselves with Torah and mitzvot. This is a quote of the Zohar, and over there they're ready and willing to come down here and complete their mission. Amnam, however, wake up, Rabbi. Im lo tiken et hanefesh legamre bepam echat. You didn't fix your nefesh. V'niftar min ha'olam. The nefesh was left uncompleted. As tzarich shetachzor hanefesh ha'il begilgul ad kama pa'amim. The nefesh will keep on coming back down and again and again and again, ad shetizdachech kol tzorcha legamre, until it becomes completely purified. V'az af al pi shenishlema, and then even though that it's complete, ein haruach shela nichnas ba, your ruach will not come down inside of it. That means you completed your nefesh in your first gilgul. And not in your first Gilgul, in your subsequent Gilgulim, the Ruach will not come down in you now. Why? Since your soul, your lowest part, your Nefesh, was not fixed but by a Gilgul, you need a very big zechut for your neshama not to come down, your next part, your ruach, to come down. We're going to learn later on the only way, if you're a reincarnated soul, to get to your ruach and neshama in the same gilgul, if you didn't get it the first time. When you say kriyat shema lamita, you have to have kavanah. When you say the pasuk, nafshi iviticha balayla, afruhi bikirbi, Ashahareka. That's only for certain nishamot. Not all nishamot could use this.
It alternates. No, if you had it this one, then you can't have it the next one unless you say Kriyat Shema. If you had it.
Not only that, you have to say Kriyat Shema on the night that you finished. That means you're a migulgal, you're a reincarnated nefesh now. The Ari says you're not going to get to your ruach. That person has to die to get his ruach now. Unless, later on we're going to learn, he has the zechut to know what day he finished his tikkun, or he could say it every day. And that night he will say Kriyat Shema Lamita, and he will say the pasuk, Nafshi iviticha balayla, my soul I brought up to you at night. It's a pasuk in Tehillim. Afruchi bikirbi, so to my ruach in me, ashachareka, I will let loose. That means what happens? You fulfilled your nefesh, now the ruach wants to come down, but it can't because you're a migulgal. So what do? You say this pasuk and have in mind to keep your nefesh when you go to sleep up there, and your ruach comes down with a nefesh hagir. You understand? So your nefesh, which is completed, he stays up there. He doesn't get messed up now by the ruach, because the ruach could mess him up now. Right? So Hashem says, then the world will never end. So I keep the nefesh up there, but this is only if you know the secret of this pasuk, to say in Kriyat Shema Lamita, and we're over here skipping Kriyat Shema Lamita. We're fighting to say the sentence, not this one that I only say Shema ve'ahavta ve'aya, speaking to myself. V'lachen tzarich sheyipater, says the Ari, a person must pass away. And then the nefesh will come with his ruach. Ve'im yi'itukan gam ruach, and if your ruach is also completed, that's tzarich sheyipater, also now he has to pass away again, to get his neshama. Now I want to read you a small haga'ah of Rabbi Yehuda Aftaya over here. Rabbi Yehuda Aftaya wrote footnotes to Shaar Hagilgulim. I want to read you this footnote of Rabbi Yehuda Aftaya. How come the person has to die now to get his next part if he's reincarnated? What's the problem? So what, you're reincarnated? Why can't you get your ruach now? What's the big deal? What's the difference between a reincarnated nefesh to a non-reincarnated nefesh? What's the difference? Why does the reincarnated nefesh have to die to get the ruach now? But the non-reincarnated nefesh could get his ruach in the same gilgul, in the first time he's in this world. You get it? What? It's more refined. That's why he should get it. So why does he have to die? You're making the question stronger. If you're migulgal and you fixed your nefesh, you did it. You did your job. I know, but he's not gonna get his ruach if he has avonot, right? This is a guy who fixed his nefesh.
He has to die and come back.
Why does he have to die?
When he comes back, his avonot is more like they're not on him anymore.
The guy is first time in this world. First time.
Yeah.
He completed his nefesh. His ruach could come down right away. He doesn't need to sleep, nothing. While he's walking outside, he finished his nefesh, boom, like a boomerang. He levels up.
Does it feel anything?
It could be. Yeah, how do you feel? You're not gonna feel like suddenly like in the
Superman.
You're Superman. You're gonna start shining.
Oh,
You're gonna feel a koach.
Oh, does he get like a ruach? Like, you know, say, like,
How does a person suddenly be choser b'tshuva? How does a person suddenly start to take more mitzvot upon himself? These are all leveling up. He's leveling up, of course. A person doesn't just change his brain. Some people level down. They get crazy.
He's leveling up, but he's leveling up in what sense? He didn't get to ruach all of a sudden.
More capabilities.
How do you ascertain it?
Every mitzvah you do, says the Ari, not in Shaar Hagilgulim, and Etzachayim, Shaar Drushei Atzelim, every mitzvah you do, it's like you're adding another piece to the puzzle.
It's like a spark.
It's like a spark. You're adding another spark. Basically, every day that you're born, it's like I hate to compare it to a video game, but that's why Hashem created video games to help us make these comparisons. It's like a video game. Every level that you're in, you have a certain amount of points you have to get. So you're born today. You're reborn today. As we say in Yotzer Or, HaMechadesh betuvo b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh bereshit. Hashem says, Habibi, today you have 90 sparks to do. What does that mean you have 90 sparks to do? I'm going to give you 90 scenarios of mitzvot and averot. Your job is to get each one of those points. You understand what I'm saying? Every point you get, you're completing. Now, let's say you didn't complete that mission of today. You did 80 out of 90. That's a big. You did 80 out of 90. What's going to happen to the other 10?
Next day?
No, they have to come out today. Every day has its own tikkun. Every day's shacharit is that day's shacharit. You can never make up today's shacharit. So you can never make up today's mincha. Whatever that day is, you have to. So what happens if you did only 80 out of 90? You missed those 10 sparks, but they have to come out, and only you could do it. So how are you going to get it? You get stuck in traffic. Yisurim. You're there for an hour, and you're boiling up. You're getting angry. Yisurim. You put your hands into your pocket. Suddenly you see, you don't have the exact change. You're running to your car. Suddenly you get a ticket. Wife makes you angry. Kids make you crazy. All these things are nitzotzot that you were supposed to pick up, and you did it. You understand? That's how they come out, through Yisurim. Or there's an easier way out. Learning Torah. Learning of the Torah, before Matan Torah, they didn't have that. That's why before Matan Torah, when Hashem needed to purify Klal Yisrael, Mitzrayim, famine, Avraham, Yitzchak versus Avimelech, Paro, everything was din kasher. The brothers, the fight between them. Once they got the Torah, look at the book of the prophets. They're fighting with a nation, they cry out to Hashem, Hashem saves them. Another fight with the nation, cry out to Hashem, Hashem saves them. You understand? Only when Chas v'Shalom the Jews go totally down, so basically Hashem has to hit the reset button.
Or wake up this guy.
What's the reset button?
That was a reset button. That was Victor Miller calls it divine madness. I just finished the book today.
You got it.
I just got it. That's how good it was. Very historical though. Victor Miller has a book on the Holocaust. He's very sharp. He says things that not a lot of people would want to hear. Basically says that when we don't do what we have to do, Hashem has to hit the reset. And he says in his book, Divine Madness, any rabbi, he says, I was there, he says, in Eastern Europe before the war. I was there, he said. Whoever paints you this picture as if everyone in Europe was tzaddikim, everyone was Shomer Shabbos, everyone was Chachamim. He says it's a blatant lie. The European Jewry got such to a point, he says 65% of Jews in Prague weren't circumcised.
Assimilated.
Forget I said the mitzvah that everyone says the Jews always keep. 65 in Prague. This is the home of Noda B'Yehuda, of Yonatan Eibeshitz. What happened to these great tzaddikim? This is Prague. This is the greatest center of Torah. That in Minsk, he said, I was there, he said. The Haskalah movement destroyed Jewry over there. Barbershops were open on Shabbat. Girls and boys used to dance together on Shabbat. Bonfires. I saw it. What Hashem had to do to wake us all up was something crazy. Hashem had to get rid of all these movements, all this Haskalah. He said out of all the movements, there was 30, 40 of them. Socialist, communist, Yitzharas. Two made its way out. Until today, it's poisoning the Jewish people. The Zionist movement, which is a nationalistic movement, basically you don't have to believe in God, just believe in the motherland. This is a Russian and German idea. It made its way to Israel and the socialist movements. You know, Israel is based on communist ideals, socialist ideals. The first founding fathers of the state of Israel, Herzl, Ben Gurion, they were socialists. You understand? This is Yisurim. This is the last Yisurim we have to go through. Anyways, but the learning of Torah is mechaper everything. The learning of Torah is mitaken et hakol. Okay? So a person, when he's reincarnated, he's on a lower level than when he was the first time in this world. Why? Answers Rabbi Yehuda Aftaye. Why? He says, look at this. Kihine kishechozer begilgul. Look at this. He's giving you a rule now. When a person comes back in a gilgul, Gavriel, letaken Shaar chelkei nefesh, to fix those points that he missed in the nefesh. Shaar achalakim shenitkenu begilgul harishon, those parts that you fixed already in the first gilgul, lo chozrim b'nefesh begilgul sheni. They don't come back down with you the second time. Hear what he said? When you were here the first time, you did mitzvot ma'asim tovim. Those points that you fixed, they don't come back down with you.
It makes sense. If they fix, why they have to come
Exactly! Because they're fixed and you come back down with what's left. So are you a full nefesh now?
back?
That's why the ruach. That's why when the ruach comes down, what does he feel? It's like 5 gallons of water is trying to fit into a small cup, and it can't go inside. That's why the reincarnated soul is on a much lower level than the first time you're here. Because when you're the first time here, you come in your full capacity. When you're reincarnated, you're already leaving parts of you up there. So when the ruach wants to come down, he finds a vessel that's not suitable for him. So he has to wait till you pass away. Your nefesh goes up, takes the rest of its pieces, and comes back down with the ruach. You understand what I'm saying?
But the same concept in Tzotzor. Now, for example, Adam Rishon, Adam Kadmon, he was very big. And then his children were small, and so on and so forth.
Adam Rishon we can't bring him as an example because
Right.
before the sin, after the sin, before Cain and Hevel.
Let's say Cain and Hevel.
Cain and Hevel is one of the biggest sugiyas in the whole Shaar Hagilgulim. Maybe the whole Shaar Hagilgulim is dependent on Cain and Hevel. They're the most 2 important shorashim. You understand? Cain and Hevel they took from Adam Rishon his nefesh of Atzilut. That means if you're Cain or Hevel, or from their Shorosh Hashama, the highest you could ever reach is nefesh da Atzilut. You understand what I'm saying? You can never reach higher than that. And of course, they inherited that from their father. It means Adam Rishon, when he was made, the Shaar Hagilgulim says, he was a complete human being. From the beginning of Ak until the end of Asiyah, he had everything inside of him. When he was about to sin from Etz Hadat, he lost all of Ak, and he lost all of Atzilut except for Nefesh da Atzilut. Whatever he gave to his sons was whatever was left in him. Okay? So that's a different story. Whatever Adam came back hundreds of times. Right? Adam Rishon. But still, like Rav Victor Miller says, their averot would be considered for us mitzvot. You understand? Rav Victor Miller says something very crazy in last week's pamphlet. I don't know if you guys read it. He says, if you think Esav was some crazy Rasha walking around, he would probably think he was the greatest tzaddik if he was walking around today. You understand? So it's different people. And our kids won't be able to look at us the same way. We'll be a totally different generation to them. That's how it is always. Okay, but you guys get what Rabbi Daftai is saying, right? How come the reincarnated soul is in a much different... It has to die to get his ruach, because he's not a complete nefesh anymore. Okay? Very good. וכן הדרך, ואם לא תיקן, back to the Shaar Hagilgulim, הרוח צריך שיתגלגלו כמה פעמים הנפש עם הרוח עד שתיקן הרוח. And the same thing holds true with the ruach. If it didn't fix itself, it will come back many times until it completes its tikkun. ואז ימות האדם ויחזור ויתגלגל הנפש והרוח וגם הנשמה עד שיתקנו שלושתם. And once the ruach is fixed, it will die. That person will die, and he will come back in a third body with his nefesh, ruach, and neshama. And once you have your neshama, harehu adam shalem. Once you have your neshama, you're considered a complete person, and it's almost guaranteed that you will never sin. I'll give you an example of a person who had a neshama and he sinned. But look at his tikkun. Look how he sinned. You're of Am ben Nevat, the first king of the 10 tribes, the prophet Achia Shiloni, the Rebbe of Eliyahu Hanavi. That means Eliyahu Hanavi's Rebbe was Achia Shiloni. Achia Shiloni told Yerovam ben Nevat, Hashem chose you to be the king over the 10 tribes. That means he was Mashiach ben Yosef. And Shlomo's son, Rechavam, was Mashiach ben David. They were supposed to join together as one. Yerovam ben Nevat, the Gemara has a crazy story how God comes to him and tells him me, you, and the son of Yishai are going to walk together in Gan Eden. He says, no, I want to be first. And Hashem says, no, you can't be first, Ben Yishai Barosh. After that, he goes and makes the Eya. The whole story doesn't make sense. God's coming to you and telling you that that we're going to stroll together in the Garden of Eden, and you say no. And not only that, right after God speaks to you, you go make 2 Egel Hazavs. The answer is as such. At that moment of his life, Yeravam ben Nevat had a neshama. He had a nefesh, a ruach, and neshama. When a person has a neshama to sin, his Yetzer Hara is so big, but his Yetzer Tov is even greater. It means before he sinned, before he did the Averah of the Egel, Hashem came to him himself and said, I'm over here. Don't do it. That means, if Hashem would come to you and say, don't do it, would you do it? No, but that's because you're a nefesh.
We don't know what kind of test.
Exactly. What kind of test? He had the test of a neshama. In a neshama's level, it's almost no free will. But when he did sin, he totally broke his vessels. That's why he went all the way out. And he has no chelek le'olam haba.
So what kind of test was that? It was a test of Gava? Because he over the...
In his level, it wasn't just a Ga'ava. It was even smaller than that. It was more minute. It was, who's going to be ahead? Who's going to walk ahead? What's the big deal? Who walks ahead?
It's a Gava though.
Yeah, that's true. But remember, Yeravam ben Nevat was the Nitzotz of Yosef HaTzadik. Yosef is the Yesod. The Yesod goes up, goes down. That's why he always wants to be at the head. You understand? That's his level. He had to, but he wasn't supposed to say that. He wasn't supposed to ask. For that asking, he totally broke his vessel. So when Neshama sins, even a little bit, totally explodes. But yet before he sins, God speaks to him. So it's almost impossible to sin. But he did. And he lost his Olam Haba. Okay? Let's finish the paragraph and we'll call it a night. אבל צריך שתדע, one must know, כי כאשר נתקנה הנפש, when the nefesh is fixed. וחזרה אחר כך לבוא בגלגול, and it comes back to coming back in a גלגול. In the reincarnation, כדי לקחת את הרוח to get his רוח, כדי לתקן גם אותו to fix it too. אם באותו גלגול יחטא האדם איזה חטא. Now the ruach is new, but the nefesh is fixed. Now the ruach could sin, but why should the nefesh suffer? Says the Ari. So the Ari explains, אין הפגם ההוא פוגם בנפש. The sin of the ruach will not cause a blemish to the nefesh. כדי שנאמר שצריכה עוד הנפש ההיא להתגלגל פעם אחרת יחידי לתקן הדרך הנזכר. לפי שכיוון שיש שם רוח, הנה הפגם ההוא פוגם ברוח לבדו עד שיתוקן. So the Avera only hits the new part, which is the ruach. So the guy had a nefesh, he fixed it. Now he get his ruach. When a person sins now, it doesn't go to the nefesh. It only goes to the ruach. Why? Because the nefesh, B'chorek, he came back in Gilgulim until it fixed itself. Now he gets his ruach. He's supposed to get messed up because of the ruach? Of course not. So therefore, when he makes a pegam, it only hits the ruach. The nefesh is fixed. Why should he suffer because of the ruach? לכן, אם יצטרך איזה גלגולים כדי לתקן את הרוח, באים נפש ורוח ביחד, מגלגלים שניהם עד שהם תיקון הרוח. ואז יפטר האדם ויחזור ויגל נפש ורוח גם לנשמה, שלושתם ביחד, אם שניהם גם תיקון הנשמה. Therefore, since the nefesh will never be pogam, because it's complete, it could come back a couple of times to help the ruach. So if the ruach messes up, it could come back a couple of times with the nefesh, until he gets his neshama, and once he gets his neshama, it's smooth sailing. Once you get your neshama, you're almost promised to never do an avera. ואז בגלגולים ההם, אם חטא אדם, אינו פוגם רק בנשמה בלבד, הדרך שביארנו בעניין תיקון הרוח, and the same thing holds true with the neshama. If the guy now fixed his nefesh and ruach, and now he has a neshama with them, if he doesn't have avera, it only will hit the neshama. והנה, לפעמים, יהיה שהנפש בעת תיקון שלה נשלמה ונצחה בתכלית גדול. It could be sometimes that a person's nefesh is so purified and became such a tzaddik. He doesn't want to come down with his ruach. He says, I fixed myself. I did all the work. Why do I have to come back down here in this world? The ruach wants to come down. Let it come down by itself. הנפש נשארת למעלה בצרור החיים. So the nefesh won't come back down. והרוח לבדו יתגלגל. Now the ruach comes down, but it can't come down by itself. It needs a nefesh. So what nefesh does he come down? לכן הוא מתלבש בתוך נפש הגר. There's a special nefesh called Nefesh Aguero. Convert soul. Before converts convert, their souls were inside tzaddikim, going through a certain washing process, and then once it's completely washed, it goes inside the ger and he converts. He wants to convert. Okay? So his nefesh doesn't want to come back down. But his ruach has to come down. So it comes down in something called Nefesh Aguero, which is a very low soul. Why? The Ari will explain to us in the later chapters, Shaz Hashem, that every time your soul comes down over here, it goes inside the malchut for a certain period of time to be cleansed, like a mikveh. So some people, like a baby's inside the mother's womb for how long? 9 months. So there are souls that are in there for 9 months. There are souls that are in there for 7 months. Those are very high nishamot, like Moshe Rabbeinu. There are souls that are in there for 12 months. 12 months, like Shalom HaMelech. Then there are souls that are in there, I think 30 days. 30 days. That's Nefesh Aguero. That's why Gerim, they're very quick to mess up.
It comes 30 days prior to...
And whatever that means, doesn't mean the actual 30 days of this world. The amount of time that it's cleansed relative to the other souls in the Malchut is very small time. The Ari calls it 30 days. That's why Gerim, a lot of them mess up and they go back on their words. Or they're mitgayer for the wrong reasons. Or they have a very hard time following through with their mitzvot. Why?
They suffer a lot.
They suffer a lot, I know. It's not easy. Now what happens, this ruach, now he's subjected to having a very not the best roommate. This ruach, because his nefesh doesn't want to come down. So this ruach now has the roommate, Nefesh Aguero. What happens? He comes down. If he's okay to fix, ויחזור להתגלגל, אז תתחבר עמו הנפש הראשונה שלו להתגלגל יחד שלהם כדי לקבל המשך שלהם. What if the ruach fixes itself? Now that Nefesh Aguero stays up, now his nefesh sees that the ruach is good. So it comes back down with him again. To get what? The third part, which is the best part, the neshama. The nefesh originally didn't want to come down. Why? The ruach wasn't completed yet. But once the nefesh sees the ruach is complete, now he says to the nefesh Aguero, spakoina, salamat, you do you. Now I'm going to go back to my previous ben zug, my ruach, and the nefesh Aguero does what he needs to do, and then he comes back down with his ruach, and they get their neshama.
So where is the Nefesh Aguero going to?
Usually he goes inside a goy, that's a tzaddik, and he gets this hitoru to convert.
Like the guy I met over there.
Could be, listen, who knows? Maybe he'll get a hitoru. ולפעמים גם כן יבוא הרוח לעבודו בגלגולים ונשמה עד שתקן נשמה ואז אין לאדם עוד שום גלגול ותחלבו שלושתם יחד למעלה צורכים גורל להם and sometimes and also when the neshama gets complete the nefesh ruach and neshama they join together in olam ha'elyon and they wait until tchiyat hametim.
What do they do there?
In Bitzor HaChaim
They drink.
there's a place, it's called, there's 2 Gan Edens. So basically, what's Gan Eden? The Zohar explains Gan Eden is exactly like this world. When a person passes away, he loses this body, he sheds off this body, and he gets a new body. You get a new body. And with that new body, you're in Gan Eden HaTachton. When it's time for you to level up to go to Gan Eden HaElyon, in the middle of Gan Eden, there's something called Etz Hadat and Etz HaChayim. They're like portals. You go through there, and you level up to Gan Eden HaElyon, and then you shed off that body, and you get the new body in Gan Eden
What
HaElyon.
does the body look like?
The same thing like this. Just instead of or, it's or. You understand? Instead of skin, it's light. Like Adam HaRishon's original body.
Wow.
And that's the bodies we're going to get in Tchiyat HaMetim Bezrat Hashem very soon.
It's going to be physical?
Amen.
That physical, compared to now, will be considered spiritual. You won't need to eat and drink anymore.
Although they said that it's going to be completely different. Fruits and
Right, Tchiyat HaMetim is going to be totally different. Even Mashiach's time is going to be, according to many of the Mekubalim, Tchiyat HaMetim is going to come in stages. It's not gonna come all in one shot. According to the Leshem Shova Achlama and also the Rebbe Mikomarna, Tchiyat HaMetim is gonna take a couple of stages. The first people that are gonna wake up in Tchiyat HaMetim, seemingly it's gonna be during Mashiach's time. Those are gonna be people that need to fix themselves. They need to either bring korbanot or they miss certain mitzvot. They're gonna wake up first. The last people that are gonna wake up are gonna be the biggest tzaddikim, the avot, this, that. They're gonna wake up to usher in the new era, which is gonna be Olam Haba. Okay, so we're gonna end here for today. We're gonna next week we're gonna start with Nefesh Aguero. So remind me with Nefesh Aguero. V'dayin kozeh with Nefesh Aguero. Basically, he's gonna tell us the Ari that the Nefesh Aguero, even though it leaves that person, but it still has a connection to that person. So that ger that's gonna get that nefesh will always be connected to that tzaddik.
So it's possible you could have a Nefesh Aguero.
Yeah, so that nefesh ger, then that ger will always be combined in this world and also in the next world. He'll share with you a place in Gan Eden, because he helped you, right? And now you help him. So you guys have this bond, this connection. Okay? We'll continue this next week. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen. Amen.